Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 4 of Coffee with the Commodore. I am Commodore Skip, your host with the most. And again, as I do at the very beginning of every show, I remind you I have no military rank whatsoever. I am not affiliated with any shipping company, nor am I affiliated with any early 80s computer system, Commodore 64, because I'm only 58. Anyway, hope you're having a great morning so far. We'll get right to it. Today's coffee, courtesy of Spidey, because with great coffee comes great responsibility. Today we're drinking Food Line Hazelnut because I'm trying to get rid of it. I like it, but I'm a little bit over hazelnut right now. So I'm just trying to power through and get these out of the way. And then we'll move on to something better. I hope. So, what are we talking about today, brain? Um, As you can see, I'm wearing my old school Dungeons and Dragons t-shirt today, one of my favorites. So that's going to lead me into a fantasy discussion. If you know me and if you listen to my show, I believe I mentioned it before. I've been gaming since 1978, the Jimmy Carter administration, and D&D was the Dungeons and Dragons was the first game I ever played. Thank you, Chuck. You got me hooked for life, baby. Yep, you didn't think it would come to this, did you? But it did. So fantasy has always been my go-to genre. It's something I'm very comfortable in. I could pick up, a couple of players, and I can come up with something off the top of my head and enjoy for 3 hours. I'm very comfortable. It's my home, and so it's kind of where my brain is right now. Um, if you joined us on the old ways before, and if you haven't, by all means do so because the old ways rocks. Uh, we've been kind of focusing a little bit on building a fantasy uh, world in which to play in, and we kind of debuted that a little bit at Gamehole this past month, and it's available on YouTube. And I'll put the link in the down below. But anyway, so it's kind of got me into a fantasy mode. As my buddy Chuck, who got me hooked on this, kind of asked if I wanted to do maybe a top 5 gaming systems. I'm going to do a top 5 of my fantasy systems that I've played, um, that I've really enjoyed, and that I still have in my library. Speaking of library, take a look at the Commodore cave here. I've actually organized it back there. You really can't see it from my big bulbous head, but it's actually really well organized. Um, I've even got some of my posters up that you can't see. Uh, but it's starting to feel more like home in here. It starts to feel like an actual studio, and I'm very happy about it. If once I'm organized, I can get my thoughts together, and it just helps. But anyway, not to ramble on like I normally do. Um, we're gonna go ahead and get started. So it just so happens to have 5 books right here. Amazing how the interweb works. So speaking of what we were doing in the old ways, we did Monty Cook's Cipher System, and this is the fantasy genre book, Godforsaken. Uh, Cipher is really good. I really like it. I've been playing a lot of it lately, and it although you can all the games I'm going to mention, let me just say that you can find out on the interwebs and YouTube about people actually going in depth on the system, explaining every piece of it, and they're great. Um, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to bore you with all those details. I'm going to kind of mention what I like about them. But if you want to, you can search out there for Cipher System Fantasy, and you'll get some actual plays and everything. So it's very very cool um, how gaming has just evolved once the World Wide Web got up and running. It's just amazing to see from the point that we were playing Dungeons and Dragons in the basement to this point. It's just been amazing. But with the cipher system, I like the flexibility. You're a adjective, noun, that verbs, and that's how you create your character. So, for example, I am a lucky thief who stabs with a dagger. Okay, just a certain so that's kind of how you build your character around, and you pick up skills and abilities and everything like that. The GM doesn't roll a dice; it's all character driven. You roll your defense if you're being attacked by a critter. And then you have a target number that you try to lower based on help from your friends, any of your skills, any ciphers that are out there, any equipment that you have. So it flows very well. And that's what we did at Game Hole. And you'll be able to see that on there. Really fun. I had a great time playing. But since I've been playing that a lot, it's in my head, and it's become one of my go-to systems now. I'm also working on a little superhero thing for Cypher, and there's a bunch of other genres out there. But we're talking about fantasy today, so I'm not going to digress. But that's what brings it into the top five as far as fantasy systems that I enjoy. So number four, moving right on from Schwab Entertainment. Oh, excuse me, Savage Worlds. Let's do that one first. Um, Pinnacle Entertainment. Shane, hello, man. Uh, Great system. I got to play this about 3 years ago. We did a about 3 month fantasy campaign using this system. Very sleek. I like it because your stats are based on what die you're going to be using, and you buy the die starting out with a D4, D6, D8, D10, D12, stuff like that. So you can establish your stats that way. You could create any type of character that you want. If you want a mage that fights with a sword, if you want a paladin who has lock picking abilities, if you just want to be all out, I want to be a badass spellcaster, and you can do that. Um, and the thing about Savage Worlds that I really, really enjoy is the initiative system, to where you're dealing cards out, and based on where your card lies or what card did you get, that's where you go in initiatives. That's the initiative order. I think that's really ingenious. Um, and again, Savage Worlds is one of those companies that or systems that you can go any type of genre in, anywhere from fantasy to superheroes to rifts to yeah, Flash Gordon, anything like that. And you have your wild dice, and all those dice can explode. So if you roll maximum, you could just keep going till you're like, there's nothing left of the poor villain there after you roll all those dice. It's pretty amazing when things explode like that. But bring that in as the number four system uh, that I've enjoyed playing fantasy in. Now we move on to Schwab Entertainment. Sorry, got a little ahead of myself. Shadow of the I hate doing this. Shadow of the Demon Lord. Yeah, yeah, there you go. Yeah, this is what you get when you don't edit. Shadow of the Demon Lord by Schwab Entertainment. Okay, this combines two of my favorite genres: fantasy and horror. Basically, the premise is that a shadow lord, a demon lord, is coming, and the world is beginning to end. So bad stuff is happening. So basically, you have two choices. One, you can embrace the madness and just go out with a bang and do whatever you want to do before the demon lord comes, or even help the demon lord along. Or you can play the hero and try to stop the demon lord. Um, you have, instead of classes, you have paths. Um, so you start out as with a normal schmuck. You could be like a dwarf, an elf, a clockwork, a human, an orc, a goblin. And you start out with little basic abilities there, like your professions, and then you move up into your past. Like the first step is level one, where you can be a warrior, you can be a wizard, you could be a priest, or you can be a rogue. And then from there, it just kind of expands on. And depending on what level, you also get different abilities for whichever race that you've chosen, and things like that. So um, it's very flexible. The system flows very, very well. It has the horror element that I love, because you can go insane, you can go mad, you can be corrupted, um, and the spell system is pretty simple too. And you have forbidden schools too. They'll also add to your madness and your corruption and things like that. So it's a very intricate system. It's designed for like 10 adventures. And at the very end, of each adventure, you level up. It's very simple. You don't have to worry about experience points or anything like that. So I've enjoyed running it. I'm currently running it. And hopefully you'll see that soon. but and I'll talk more about it then. But it's a great system, especially if you're just cutting your teeth into fantasy. It's very easy to pick up, as I've pretty much explained it. Except for like the core mechanics, is a D20. You have target numbers, and you're trying to meet or beat it. All right, let's move on to number two. And I tend to be rambling this morning, and I'm sorry. So it's probably time for another sip of coffee. Yes, Uncle Ben, I do have great responsibility because I have great coffee. And this is probably a surprise because I'm wearing a T-shirt. You would think it's number one, but no, it's number two. Number two. Yep, the classic Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. So I've told some people this story. I'm going to go ahead and tell it again. How I first got these books. How did I get these scars? Well, my friend Chuck, who got me hooked on this stuff. Thanks, man. Um, had these books. So I hadn't bought them yet. I still had the old box set that I've probably discussed before. But my grandfather, I was raised and lived with my grandparents through most of my semi-adult and younger life. Loved to go to the horse races. That was his thing. So there was no gambling like that in Virginia at the time. So we had to go to West Virginia. And every about once or twice a year, we would go up there for the weekend. He would stay at the Holiday Inn because that's what my grandfather had to do. And we would go to the Charlestown track. Um, I love watching the horses. It's just my thing. I love horses anyway. Um, but I go there because my grandparents were going. It was an adventure. I got to play in the pool, and I got to eat really good food up in the clubhouse, and it was really really nice. Um, but I couldn't bet. I mean, I was not even. I don't think I even hit teenage years yet, and so my grandmother would say, "Okay, Skip, why don't for a couple of races here, pick some numbers, and I'll go play it for you just to see what happens." Well, one weekend I ended up bringing in $200. I was like, wow. Um, so on the way back, we had stopped for gas, and there was a bookstore, believe it or not, open on Sunday. And I went in there, and they had the Monster Manual, the Player's Handbook, and a DM's Guide. So that's where the money went. And that's how I got my first set of books, and they're still on the shelf back there as well. So, I mean, what can you say about this iconic system? I mean, back then it was classic. That's what you played. Unless you were playing Traveler, you were playing D&D, and it's always going to be. Again, I've used the word home, but it is. Even though the leveling system was okay. I mean, you know, when you're playing a wizard like I did at one time, you have maybe 4 hit points. You had one spell, which either was going to be magic missile or sleep. And other than that, you kind of stay behind the fighter and threw darts. hmm But then when you got to the level where you're getting fireball, things change. Yeah. But for what it was a great system. I mean, we're talking THACO then, you know, talking about your racial, you can only advance so far as an elf and fighter, the racial limitations and things like that. But it was magical back then. Magical. When you actually rolled the stats to be a ranger or be a paladin. Or if you were completely insane and you wanted to go be a bard, you had to go through about all the classes just to get to the point where you're a bard. And you were a bard. Yeah. Yeah, anticlimactic, I know. But anyway, I count all the Dungeons and Dragons in that number too. I mean, we're talking second edition, which is a little bit of modification of first. Third edition. I even enjoyed fourth edition. A lot of people didn't. I saw it for what it was. It was a different take on Dungeons and Dragons. I had some good campaigns playing it, so I can't say that I hated it. I really enjoyed it. And then, of course, fifth edition came along, and that's what pretty much everybody plays now. But I've stopped at the 2014 edition. That's it. I'm done. I'm not buying any more Dungeons and Dragons. They can improve it. They can tear it apart. I don't know, but I'm done. That's as far as I go in Dungeons and Dragons, and I'm okay with that. Okay with that. So that brings us to the number one fantasy system that I really, really like, and I am just cutting my teeth in it, and it has kind of checked off the boxes that I like, scratched the itch that I've been needing for a while, and that is from Troll Lord Games, Castles and Crusades. And if you can see, if I would hold this better, it's kind of a playoff. Their covers are like a playoff of some of the old school Dungeons and Dragons stuff, which I think is really neat. But I got to play this at Game Home with Jeremy, one of the writers for the starter set, and it has that old school feel with a D20 kind of a third edition mechanic, and it's very simple to pick up. It's very easy to learn. I can tell you right now that what you're looking at is a target number. Let's say, for example, you don't have any skills. You don't have a skill list. You just come off with the top of your head. Okay, this is what I want my character to do. So let's say Gronk, the fighter, wants to jump across a chasm. Okay, your skills, I mean your attributes are either prime or not prime or secondary, however you want to put it. If you're doing something that requires a prime skill, like for example, Gronk is going to use strength to jump across because he cannot get a running start. He's just going to use the strength in his legs to get across. Target number begins at 12 because it's a prime stat. And then the Castle Keeper, GM, Dungeon Master, you know, can add modifiers to that. But for example, in this example, we're going to say because he can't get a running start, it's going to be a +2 modifier to that. So target needs to be starting at 14. You had to meet it or beat it, 14 or higher on a D20. All right, so let's take a look at what Gronk has to offer. Gronk is strong. He's got a strength of 18. So that's +4. So he's going to be adding +4 right there up to the dice. Gronk is only first level. This is his first dungeon. So he doesn't know better than he could probably just walk around or find another way. No, he wants to just jump across it because he's Gronk. So his level adds to it, so he adds +1. So you're looking at a +5 to your die roll. He rolls a 10, beats the 14 there. He's good to go. All right. Let's say his buddy, poor little Gleep Werp, is a mage or a wizard. Strength, not his stat, not his primary. It's secondary. Um, doesn't have any spells left. They just fought a whole band of kobolds, and they're trying to get over to get to their loot. And the kobolds had already destroyed the bridge. So Gleep's going to have to jump along with Gronk here. So we're starting at an 18 because it's not a prime stat. Now he is first level, so that's going to be a +1 to his die. So Gleep said, "I got this," and then he rolls a 9. It becomes a 10. Same thing that Gronk rolled, basically. But poor Gleep falls to his doom because he didn't make the roll and he didn't think about other factors. So it's as simple as that. And there are other mechanics that go along with it. It's, there's more to it. But it has that old school, you know, feel. You're rolling 3d6 to begin your stat rolls. You can put them anywhere, but it's 3d6 like the old days and everything. It just scratches that niche that I've been missing in my life. So I've moved that to number one because that's what I'm enjoying right now. That's what my focus on. I think I'm going to run a campaign in it for my friends in Virginia. So I'm looking forward to that. Um, and just one more I want to mention real quick. It's kind of an honorable mention. It kind of goes into the D&D family, but I wanted to pull it out too. It's the Rules Cyclopedia. This is a combination of the the basic and advanced systems, like the old red box and blue boxes, if y'all remember that stuff. It kind of takes that into account and when they put it together into one rule book. It goes to higher levels than what the blue box did. And it also kicked off the world of Mystara, if I'm not mistaken. So there's a lot of nostalgia in this book as well. That's why I want to kind of mention it. I've had an opportunity to play this once or twice since it came out. And it's a very good system to fall back on. So I want to mention that too. That may scratch a few itches out there as well. So we're about at the 20-minute mark. So I'm going to go ahead and start wrapping things up. First of all, another thing I want to thank is everybody who's actually tuned in to my little horse and pony show. Um, just keep it up. I love to see the subscribes. I love to see the likes, the comments, good or bad. Cosmic, thank you for the little conversation we had about how I can improve the show. Um, I'm going to take those to heart and start working on that. So we'll see a little bit of editing here and there. Um, and I am going to get other people on here with me. I think that's going to be a good platform for them. It's a good platform for y'all to watch and learn some stuff that you may not have learned. And I get to have coffee and chat with my friends and give them a time in the spotlight. And that's what I want to do. Again, I'm not a big writer. I can come up with stuff, but I don't think I'll ever be published. I never say never, but it's just not my thing. This is my thing. I like talking. I like talking games. I like talking with people. So maybe this is how I add to the gaming community, whereas I thought I could add it by writing. Who knows? But anyway, I'm having fun, and I want to thank you. That I'm always going to say thank you for everybody who's tuned in so far. I really love you guys and gals and everybody uh, out there um, who have supported me, who have brought me into their family, and I want to give you a chance to be on here and give something back as well. So I think my ramblings are done. My coffee is about done, and again, this is Coffee with the Commodore. Thank you again for listening, my Commodore Skip. And remember to smile. You never know whose day you might brighten. And we'll see you next time. Have a great day.